GuruTalk. I'm Dave Palumbo, and I'm joined by my good friend Ameen Alai for an interesting episode where we're going to be talking about a drug that probably a lot of you guys have never heard of, and you're going to find out some new applications of it, and we're going to hear the history of at least Ameen's relationship with that drug, and it is called ibogaine. Tell us about it.
Well, thank you for having me on the show again, especially to talk about a subject that is probably not heard of in bodybuilding. And the story I have today to tell you.
Hold on, I want to interrupt you for a second. I got to show off the shirt you sent me. Hold on, get on this shirt. Feed me science with a syringe on it. And it has your little signature on the back. And actually on the back, I'm not going to turn around, it says Ask Dave actually in green. So thank you.
Turn around, show him, Dave.
Turn around. Can you see it?
Yeah. There you go.
All right. Very cool. Thank you. Are these shirts available?
They are through the website, which is GuruAmeenAlai.com.
Okay.
So thank you for having me on the show to talk about a drug that's not known about in the bodybuilding world, but I think can really help a lot of people in our community. And the drug is called ibogaine. And to give you a brief history about what it's used for and what it is, it's classified in America as a Schedule I drug. So with that in mind, I want to say what I'm about to tell you is for your entertainment purposes only. And that is my disclaimer on this. I want you to enjoy what I'm about to say, but it is a Schedule I drug that we are talking about.
Isn't that what people do with Schedule I drugs? They entertain themselves, right?
Well, that's the funny thing, and in most cases that is true.
Yeah.
But this is the actual one substance that is actually different from all of the others, and by means of that is that it's not used recreationally. This is not a recreational drug. It is classified as a hallucinogen, and in mild doses, it's a stimulant, and it's been known about since the early 1900s. It's only derived from a certain part of Africa, and it's from the bark of a certain tree called the iboga tree, which is has a pepper plant on it. Now, you guys can look into the history of it, but the long and short of it is that I found out about ibogaine because I had a neck fusion and I was on a lot of opiates, and I was having a very difficult time getting off the opiates. I was on a fentanyl patch. The fentanyl patch they had me on was 100 micrograms, as the strongest they make. The pills that they had me on were the oxycodone immediate release ones, the blue ones that I think Ronnie said he took.
Yeah.
I was taking 2 of those also every 8 hours. So the amount of pharmaceutical drugs that I was on was quite a bit for me to, in my mind, to accept that I was going to be a victim of this substance. It wasn't something, in the early 90s, I had done Nubain, and I was able to overcome those things. But this time, it was this fentanyl drug. It was so powerful that the withdrawals were not a 1 week or 2 weeks. I tapered down off the drug like I was supposed to, from the 100 microgram to the 75 and the 50 and the 25. The low and the hold of it was I vomited every day for over 6.5 months, and wow. I left the operation at about 158 pounds, which wasn't much, but I mean, I was post surgery. I was pretty weak, and I'm 5'6.25", guys. So I want you to understand what situation I was in, and I'm with my family, and they're seeing this, and it's months later, and I'm struggling to get off the final patch, which was only 12.5 micrograms. But this stuff was a patch, and it was seeping in my skin 24/7. And it was poisoning me. It was literally poisoning me, but my body was building receptors to the drug. And as I was trying to quit the drug, the receptors that it had built were asking for more of the drug. And so then created withdrawals. But these weren't any ordinary withdrawals. These were withdrawals that lasted over 6-7 months, that took me from 158 pounds down to 117 pounds.
Wow. Whoa, that's skinny.
I was not 100. I was 170 pounds right before puberty. So you can understand that my family thought I was going to die. And my mentality at that time was, if I'm going to die, I'm going to die sober.
Right. Did they think you were like doing like heroin on the side or something like that? What did they think was going on?
No, because I have a very open relationship with my family,
Yeah.
and they know about my struggles. And my mother, of course, was very concerned. We have a very close relationship, and what she was seeing was that my will was so strong that she was saying, and she would never say this before, but she was saying, maybe you should just stay on the drug.
Oh wow, is that bad, huh?
And it was that bad for her that she couldn't accept to see me just. I mean, I needed them to take care of me just because I was withdrawing so bad every day for months.
But now, why wouldn't you just remove it completely? Because it seemed like you were worse on a little bit of it. Maybe you
I tried to do that, but that was even more unbearable. I honestly thought I was going to have a stroke or something. No, I mean, mind you, I've gone through Nubain withdrawals.
Right.
I've gone through some pretty hard withdrawals, and I was never scared. Okay, but I did do that, and I came into the office, and I could not control myself from vomiting in the doctor's office so bad that he said that I have to monitor you before you leave, or I'm calling an ambulance. And that's when I was like, you gotta take me off this drug, man. I can't live like this. And he goes, why don't you just stay on it? You're still in a reasonable amount of pain. You don't have to come down this fast. And I didn't want to accept that I couldn't just get off it, like you said.
Right.
I wanted to just get off it, but it wouldn't happen. Every time I tried that too, I got to the point where I was so dehydrated because I couldn't even put water in my body without vomiting. And then also I became so cold from the withdrawals that I had to stop it by getting in a hot bath just to activate the pad again so that it would go into my blood because I would, you know what I'm saying? It was a vicious cycle.
So yeah, it was a vicious cycle.
It was a vicious cycle.
Where did you discover ibogaine?
I didn't want to do methadone. I didn't want to do Suboxone, Subutex, or any of those other drugs because those are addiction drugs, and I didn't have a psychological addiction, or I had a physical dependency that I was strong enough to break if I had a way out. Okay, I didn't want to get hospitalized, and I didn't want to do the ultra rapid detox or any of those things because they weren't proven to be real. I started doing some research, and I found that there was basically a subculture of people that were using this hallucinogen, which was found to be proven to be effective in resetting the brain from the opiate drugs and other drugs, the pathways that they open up, the different receptors that they create. This drug basically shuts them down and restores the brain back to normal. And it does it in both ways. It does it in the hardware way by actually repairing neurons in the brain and repairing the pathways back to normal before you took the drugs, which when I started reading about this, I was so fascinated because I was saying to myself that, first off, you have to want to get off, and no one can force you to do it. It's not something you want to slide somebody or something like that. And I'll explain why. But the drug is so powerful that you have to be in a state where you are accepting what's going to come out of it, and whatever that could be. The hardware part is that it repairs your brain back to normal, but the software part is where you do a deep reflection upon your life. And when I say this to you, I mean this in a profound way, because the whole drugs hallucination is not a visual hallucination like any other drug. Okay?
Is it like an ayahuasca almost? Is it like that, like an introspection drug, a bit like that aspect?
In some ways it is, but in ayahuasca you go outward. You go out, and I know you've done it. You go outward. Okay, and this is different. This is you go inward. You go inward, and it repairs your brain and it repairs your cognitive reasoning. For example, I had issues with my mother and father's divorce that I didn't even realize. I had buried them in my subconscious and then realized only in this deep state of reflection that some of these feelings and thoughts that I had harbored onto had affected me and made my development into a grown man into a way that I saw needed to be changed because I didn't like who I was. And I realized that the root of it was that. And all of these things happen when you're in a state of sleep almost. You're basically in bed sleeping, and you have these dreams. And in these dreams, you're able to go back and see things. And this was my first experience with it. And I want to tell you guys, it was such a profound experience to me that I wanted to share it with people, but I didn't want people to know so much that it was drug related, because it did other things to me that I noticed. Okay. Number one, I ended up taking it for 5 days, okay, which was longer than most people, but for some reason, I have a tolerance to this specific drug, okay? Some people have different tolerances to different drugs. Some people don't. You know, I have a very low tolerance to alcohol, but for this drug, my body metabolized it much faster. Anyway, so I took it over a 5-course day, but it to the point where I couldn't eat or drink much water, so I was very dehydrated. And then coming out of it, I actually needed an IV. My mother was there with me. It was a very bonding experience for us. But when I came out of it, I also noticed that when I came back home and I got my blood tested again, my testosterone was back to normal, and I didn't take anything. Uh-huh. And when I had my surgery, my testosterone was down to 76.
Right.
And it stayed at that low for that entire period of time until after I had gotten off the drugs, and then my testosterone went back up. But I didn't make the correlation quite yet. There was another thing that happened. There was a depression that I was feeling, of course, from the drugs, that it was lifted upon me. I had no more depression, no more anxiety, no more withdrawal, no feeling of craving of taking any opiate whatsoever. I mean, in an amazing way, that I was embracing just breathing air tasted different to me in a way that I felt as if I was breathing air for the first time again. My brain was functioning on such a different level that when I had sugar was extremely sweet to me again, and I couldn't tolerate it as if I could have before. Some of these things I noticed that my receptors in other areas that they did not talk about were changed, and I noticed them in myself. It was such a profound thing that I said, I have to prove this. I have to find out if what I'm saying is, what I'm feeling is real, because if what I'm feeling is real, then this does much more than what they think it does. And what they thought it does was, it was a great way for addicts to get off of not only heroin, oxycodone, Subutex, Suboxone, so even those drugs, methadone, right. But crack, cocaine, alcohol. So all of the different drugs that they have, don't have the same receptors, but yet it worked on all those different drugs.
Did you receive the ibogaine from the hospital, or did you do it on your own?
I went to a place in Mexico. It was a private clinic in Mexico. And this is where the things get interesting. So I'm glad you segued that. I became friends with the people there because I'm who I am, and I started talking to them about growth hormone treatment and testosterone replacement and just better eating, because the people that were there, they didn't know how to eat right. They didn't know anything else. They just were, people that were getting off drugs. And there were some people there where they were for depression too, because it's the best antidepressant in the world. And I'll explain that too. So what happened when I was there, I got my blood monitor, I got everything checked, and I was fine enough to take it. And they gave me a dose. That dose was a tester dose. And then they gave me a larger doses twice a day over 5 days. And during that time, I didn't eat much. I didn't drink much. But it was profound to me what happened inside my head. My sadness was gone, my worries were gone, and my feeling of what I had to do in this life, like my purpose for being alive, changed. And I think that's deep, because I don't think anyone really knows why we're here anyway. I mean, we're here, we live, we have kids, we die. We believe in a God, some don't. So this grounded me as a person, or why I'm here on this planet. And so after that, I called my friend Tony Freeman, Tony and I are very close. We became friends in '95, and more than just in a bodybuilding way, which we did connect in, but in a friendship way. And at that time, he was, he'd been bodybuilding for years, and he was clean for a while. He wasn't going to the gym. He was having some external issues that were causing him to not be so happy. And as my friend, I told him, I said, I know what you need, man. I said, book a ticket to Mexico, and I'll meet you there. And I met him in Mexico, and I took him to this clinic, and we started to do the first study on how this can work for post-steroid use, depression, or older age depression, or depression in athletes who are used to a certain high and then come down off of it, and how they tolerate with life again and go forward. And I brought another person there too. His name was Pete. And from that point, I started, they were the first two. And then I started to get more and more studies down to this clinic that were athletes that were using this. It's a very quiet thing. I wasn't talking about this. No, you didn't know about this. I didn't say this. I didn't advertise it, speak about this. And I'm only talking about this now because I've conclusively discovered a method of which I can provide to athletes. And that's why I want to talk to you about this, because it's not, when Tony had a vision which changed his life. And to him, what that vision was, it was personal, okay? He told me about it. It was very beautiful, but it was his vision. And what it did for him, and the way that he came out of that as a new person that had energy to go and take on the world and be the Tony Freeman that you see now. Yeah. Because there was a slump in his life that not too many people, that know about, that because he's who he is, that, he was dealing with his transition from competing to not competing and so forth. And it did a miraculous change for him. As a matter of fact, I texted him about it last night, and he said he's ready to do it again. So I'm going to arrange for him to come and do it again. And now what I'm seeing is that this drug resets androgen receptors that have been damaged. And the drugs that we use, especially now the drugs are being used on such a higher level, okay, that people aren't seeing really the first or second wave of the problems from the drug use, from the high drug use. We know, you and I know, that we're males in our 40s and we're healthy. We use these drugs, but we didn't abuse these drugs. Right. Now there's a whole generation of people that are straight up abusing these drugs, and they don't think anything's going to happen to them. And you know what? Physically, you may cycle in a way where you could stay on for drugs for years, and that's fine. But guys, let's not fool yourselves. Everything is run by the brain. And you know this when you become 40 years old, that we need more testosterone because we start getting depressed. You know what I mean? So that's why people do TRT. But if there was a way to reset your brain, to get your brain working with your your gonads again, in work then through that with TRT or HRT and growth hormone therapy, and get someone really in the anti-aging, really from their 40-year-old transition, not only physically, but also psychologically, into a new way of thinking and a new way of embracing their life.
Right. Yeah, I think also sometimes, if you have something going on that's stimulating to your brain, that can act in and of itself as the impetus to change how you feel. Like, I'm so busy and I'm doing so much stuff, and I got a new family. And my testosterone's fine, and I feel good, and I don't really, I don't experience, but I know a lot of people like you do who have that post-competition slump that they get in. And I think a lot of times it's because they don't really have anything going on, and maybe the drug is opening up their mind to other things that they were meant to be here to do. And then once they get a taste of that idea, that changes their whole physiology of their body. Because let's face it, the physiology of your body is influenced by the mental state of your brain.
Yes,
I mean,
absolutely.
There's a direct connection there. But it is interesting, because I was reading that article you sent me on ibogaine, and they said that it does cause the brain to undergo neurogenesis, which is the production of new neurons and connections in your brain. So it certainly will help the brain work better in a sense. And maybe that neurogenesis is really just a regeneration of a lot of dead neurons over years and years and years,
I've seen the people that use it seem to have, the ibogaine converts into noribogaine, and it lasts in the body for years. And that's that boost that people seem to have. Remember, this drug's been banned by the Olympic Committee because it was used as a stimulant. Okay, so there's a little bit of history about it that it's kind of been hidden from sports. Immediately, it was hidden from sports because it was allowing people. It was allowing distance runners from Africa that were using it, and they were saying it was a part of their tribal ceremony, and it was, but they were breaking all the records because they didn't need water and they had energy, and they could keep running, you know, and but that's what they were doing. So you may wonder, you know, out in Africa, you know, they were eating this bark and it had this stimulating effect. So, well, France, a company in France made it into a pharmaceutical drug, and it was legal as a pharmaceutical drug for a little while. And now it's only available through, you know, people who know how to get it and can use it. Now it's legal in Mexico and Canada. Okay. And if those of you who are interested in knowing more about this or would like to be treated with my protocols, you can contact me at guruameensibo@gmail.com, and I can have a private discussion with you about it. But in my opinion, I think this is going to be the future of sports, because you're going to see a lot of athletes who either want to continue their edge and use this as a even more accelerated mental state during the time of training, which we've also been experimenting with. We've been experimenting with using this while exercising in smaller microdoses, and it found out to be incredible as a neurogenic aid.
Really interesting. Is it banned by the sports federations?
Yes, it is. It's
tested for?
I don't know if it's tested for. It probably is now, but it was back in the day because it was banned from the Olympic Committee for that reason. Right. So they probably don't take things off the ban list.
What are the dosages that people are using of this drug? And is it administered via mouth or by injection?
It can be administered by injection. However, I do not recommend that. It's not necessary. It has not been scaled to the pharmaceutical purity of which I would recommend that be done. So first and foremost, do not do that. It's not necessary. Microgram dosages. It is extremely potent if it is the pure source. Okay. Now, there's the actual ibogaine hydrochloride, which is an alkaloid of the derivatives, the total alkaloid derivatives, which come from the bark extract. Okay. There are some other benefits from the total alkaloids. However, we've found for sports and stuff like that, and what we're talking about, the ibogaine hydrochloride itself in its purest form is the one that has been found to be most effective. Okay.
Gotcha.
I'll also want to tell you that I've used this on some pretty powerful CEOs. Okay. That I can't say who they are, but these guys were suffering some serious midlife crisis, and they did need testosterone. They had low testosterone. They needed kind of the whole works. I happened to be connected with one of them. It started off with one of them because his son was addicted to drugs, and he was one of my clients. And his girlfriend found him OD'd on heroin, and no one knew about it. And then she called me up because I'm his guru. What the hell? He's on heroin. And no one knew, and he wasn't on it, but his friend had died and he was sad. He went and used it, and lo and behold, they were supposed to come meet me the next day, and I was like, get on the plane. And then I got him down to Mexico too, and he was treated, and his father happened to be a CEO of a very, very large company. He came down there to see his son, and then his friends were being treated. So this is being treated for more than just drug use. It's just that other people besides me don't know about it. And I make that as a very bold statement, but I'm saying that because most people are spending their time using it for drug addiction, and there really isn't that much of it left aside for other people unless you know how to get it from the real source. I've been blessed with that type of knowledge from ever since you've known me, Dave. Yeah. It's carried on in my life. So,
now,
share the knowledge.
For drug addiction purposes, I assume it's a clinic that treats addicted people. Is that what it is?
There are clinics that treat drug addicted people, and there are also people that have gotten it on their own, and there are a lot of people that use it with shamans. So it just depends on your choice of using it. There are people that use it in similar settings like ayahuasca, but they use it in the Bawiti ceremony, which is a lot of sounds and drums and stuff like that, and they connect you with in a spiritual way. It's different. It can be used different ways.
Well, people don't realize, like when I did ayahuasca, the music and the drums and the shaman, chanting, that initiated the hallucinations. That really sets it off. So the setting you do these things in is really important too. I think that a lot of people don't realize that. So it's not the kind of thing you want to do in your bathroom alone, because you could freak you out probably.
You will freak out, especially if you're on something where when your eyes are open, you're relatively just feel like you're on a stimulant. But then when you close your eyes, you go into this world that you're just like, what the hell? I'm in my childhood. I need to get out of here. And that happens for some people. And they tell them just, open your eyes and you'll be fine again. But when I was there initially seeing people, some of them were, having some pretty serious dreams, and then they would pop up and wake out of them. Tony didn't have anything like that. He just looked like he was asleep. It really didn't look like he was asleep for long. It looked like he was asleep for like 20 minutes. And then he woke up and he was hungry. And then he was like, dude, what happened to you? And I was like, what happened to me? What happened to you? And he was like, oh, I got to tell you about this. And I sat down and I didn't have that experience like he did. And I was like, holy shit, man, that was breathtaking. And I'm going to have Tony on my YouTube channel probably this week. He'll talk about his experience because I don't want to.
Yeah. When did he do it? Recently?
No, this was back in 2014.
Oh, okay.
I've been experimenting with this for a while, but I haven't spoken about it in the community because I wasn't ready. I didn't have a protocol. See, even with my growth and insulin and the way that I do things, I have to have a certain protocol that works. Now, when I'm working with people with their diets, I use the Dexcom. I know their glycogen levels 24/7. I can read what they eat on my cell phone. So I'm doing things that are a little bit more advanced. And I'm not ready to bring them all to the people at once, all at one time. So at this specific thing was kind of the icing on the cake, and I had everything else ready. And now with this, I'm ready to present an entire package that has everything in it from nutrition and well-being. Yeah. And
I think it's important to say this is not for everyone to be doing. I don't want all the bodybuilders to have to say, oh, I got to get on ibogaine. This is for people who have issues. You're not advocating this for everyone to use, obviously.
But let's be honest. Let's be honest, Dave. I mean, let's be honest. And I know you're not one of those people because you don't take your normal. But at one point or another, it's possible to have a mental issue when you're bodybuilding. Okay, you're so self-consumed that transitioning out of that super state where everything is about you, and you have to be like that to win. Don't get me wrong. I'm saying that's what bodybuilding is, but in some elite ways where, you've heard people say you have to be kind of crazy to lift that kind of weight, or something's got to be, you have to be emotional or whatever to push through that weight. Well, bodybuilders transitioning out of that, they have to be able to come back, and some people can't do that.
Gotcha.
They can't transition. So I think for athletes in general, there's that depression that comes in when they can't look in the mirror when they're older, or they keep trying to take drugs and they don't know why they want to keep taking drugs to be something they're not. I already know what I can be. Funny you said that about this, because the guru thing, when this happened to me, that's when I started to be an inventor. And that's when I came up with the patents on the fiber extraction and all that other stuff.
Yeah, we talked.
That's what that came. It told me I need to isolate years of my life and dedicate it to this. I did it, and now I'm seeing the fruits of its labor. But always my health was in mind. It rethink the way I thought about my image, about what I saw of myself aging as a man. And I honestly, and I swear to God, a lot of people ask me, why I look really young, and I still look really young, as I'm 46 this year, and I don't have hair transplant or anything like that. I did take steroids. I have taken them recently. I really do believe, and I think Tony will swear to this too, I think this has a more potent anti-aging fact than anything I've ever seen, and it has one that continues on. The wrinkles on the face started to disappear from both Tony and I. The water that was in the facial areas that make you look older, that are in the tip of your nose and areas like that, we start getting inflammation. They went down. That's why my face is always pretty tight. A lot of it happened in that 4 days that continued on for my life. But I've done it multiple times, and I can just tell you that I've experimented with it multiple ways, and I found that was enough for me. I don't need to do it anymore. But I also found that through my developed methods of using it, I can really treat a lot of people for much more than just drug addiction. And now we're talking about testosterone, depression in general, that people are trying to treat with testosterone and other drugs, like depression, antidepressant drugs.
And you're not treating them. You're just using a protocol that they're implementing in Mexico, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I am not. There is a doctor.
I don't want you to get in any trouble. You're not providing these drugs to people.
I'm in contact, like I said, with a
Yeah.
clinic in Mexico that's doing research that has everything available.
Yeah.
They do it in the setting, and they also do it private where they come visit you. They could be all private one-on-one. It doesn't have to be with other people, because that was the one issue that we had with the CEOs and the bodybuilders and the athletes. They didn't want to be around drug addicts. So the clinic had to branch out into doing private services. And through the private services, I would be able to appear with the doctor who would administer the drug and make sure that they qualified to take it in the first place. You know what I mean? And then if they could, they would use pretty much my guidelines, because they didn't have one. They were experimenting. They weren't like me, Dave. They weren't the kind of person that I am to go and literally take it and design an entire program around it. They didn't have it.
No offense, but when I'm tripping on ibogaine, I don't really want you in my face. Okay, can you stay off to the side in the closet somewhere?
Right here.
Get me like I don't know. Get me like some like Maharaja or something like that. You can put a picture of him in front of me. I don't want you. I don't want you to be the guy I trip out.
No, that's the thing. I'm not there. No, the whole experience is by yourself. You have a headset with some music.
Oh, cool. All right.
Your eyes are closed. You're in a bed. You're in a comfortable setting. There's someone there. If you not, I'm not there. Okay.
Gotcha.
There's someone there on call. If you need someone there. They're basically.
I'm breaking your balls, but yeah. But I understand what you're saying. But no, but you're gonna go inside and have an introspective journey in a sense, and so it's important that you block out the external stimuli, I assume.
Yeah. You're going to be laying in bed for 12 hours.
Gotcha.
For 12 hours, you're going to be having these dreams, and during that time, your brain is repairing itself.
Is that every day for a few days, or is it one day?
No. So that's where there's multiple different ways to take it. Like I said, for sports, they used it as like an amphetamine, but it wasn't. It gave them a stimulant, and they could go further. And
how much would athletes use of it when they were doing that?
Excuse me?
What was the dose that athletes were using for that type of
like 25 micrograms. It was pretty low. Yeah, 25 to 30 micrograms.
Once a day?
Yeah, you can read about all this.
Once a day they would do this?
It depended. Some of them were training on it, and they were using it because it was part of their daily ritual ceremonial habits. These people really were from a tribe. They weren't. That's how it was found out about in sports, because they started to drug test them, and they gassed chromatology and found out what it was. And
I remember back in the 80s, remember the Djibouti, that country Djibouti? I don't even know what it's called nowadays. All the guys came out of nowhere. They were winning all the marathons. Are you saying they were taking ibogaine?
It's possible. I think it was sometime. You look at the studies that were done, and there was a big research that was done from 73 even to 93, and that's where a lot of the research was done. So that is possible that it could have been during that time period, because
we had Patrick Arnold making the clear, and the Africans had the ibogaine tree they were munching on all day long, right?
And they won all the medals. So. And no one actually studied them to find out whether it was just the amphetamine or just the stimulant part of it, or did it actually get their hormones working better?
Probably was a little of everything, I would think, right?
I think as well as you do, and until we can actually get the definitive research to prove this, and then because the Schedule I drug, that's not going to happen unless billions of dollars are put into Mexico, which is not going to happen. Right. And in Canada, I don't think the money's going to get behind it, because Big Pharma doesn't want this to become big, because then they can't get people to stay on drugs and use their other drug alternatives. I mean, they kind of do it in a way to keep them in control of things.
I got all the top, if you heard the phone ring, I got all the top athletes calling already. They want to know how to get the ibogaine and what the dosage is. And if you want more information, you can contact Guru Ameen. Is it Guru Ameen Ibo? Is that what he said?
Guru Ameen's, GuruAmeenS IBO @gmail.com.
Okay. All right. Well, Ameen, I love when you come on and you enlighten us, and we have some cool debate and learn about new substances, because that's what we're all about, education. And we were going to get you back, obviously, so you can fill us in on some of the developments of the ibogaine treatments that you're helping people institute down in Mexico. And obviously, the more information you glean from this, you have to share it with us, obviously, so that we can pass it on to the audience.
Absolutely, and that's the reason I'm again. I apologize for never having brought this up before. This isn't a debatable subject. There are no other experts on this. I am the only person that has used this for athletes in bodybuilding. There are no treatment centers that are doing this. I am the only one. I'm the only person that's designed protocols that can be used for bodybuilders that are coming off steroids, that are doing it for PCT. The protocols that I've designed are designed for plenty of subjects that we have. So I just want to state that do not go to a ibogaine clinic and expect them to treat you for androgen receptor damage, or they won't know what to do.
All right. Well, I think you made it clear. People should contact you, and you can put them into the right channels to undergo this treatment. Ameen, thank you once again, and of course we're going to have you back many times because we love these discussions. But we're out of time. Until next week, I'm Dave Palumbo with Guru Ameen. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.